do the magic. Well, tēnā rā tātou. Welcome to Hui 75. As usual, we'll take the first three items together. So apologies, and we have apologies today, which are going to be recorded with declarations of interest. As always, please keep the team, as you do, updated of any changes in our interest schedule, and also confirming the minutes from Hui 74. I'll move those. Alf, can I ask you to second, please? Thank you. All those in favour signify in the usual way. Thank you. Yep, so that's approved. That takes us to the Tūpuna Maunga planting update. Kia ora, Lee.
Kia ora, Chair. So this is our usual planting update. We are at the beginning of our planting season, or coming into it, heading up to winter. So this year across 10 maunga, we will be planting 31,448 plants, which will bring the total to over 134,000 plants planted since the 2019 planting season. The planting will be undertaken across a number of mediums. So we will have community planting days, of which there will be 4, and we'll also have 1 school planting day as well. And these dates have been selected according to the maramataka. So I'll just leave it there and happy to take any questions or comments.
Kia ora, Lee. Questions, discussion, members? Kia ora, Alf.
Chair, and I know you've done this right through this whole triennial, and I just wanted to acknowledge the comments, but more importantly, Lee, to you and the staff. Look, having this and nearing this triennial, we don't know what's going to happen after the election from the Kaunihera perspective, but look, I just want to acknowledge, and I know our chair has done that right through this whole process, but just to you and the staff, and please just pass it on to them. Just the amount of mahi and with our community, with our kura. So look, just ngā mihi kia koutou katoa, Lee, if you could pass it on. Kia ora, Chair, that's all it was. Thank you.
Totally, Alf. Kia ora hau, are you wanting to kōrero? Yes. Oh, ka pai. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll move this resolution, and if I could ask Tony to second, please. Thank you. All those in favour, please signify. Any abstentions? Thank you. Thank you. That's passed. Thank you, Lee. It takes us to the next item, which is the Pēsari Howick lease and Pigeon Mountain Cricket Club sublease.
Kia ora, Paul.
Good, Lee.
So in this paper, we are proposing a lease of 18 months plus 1 year right of renewal to Pēsari Howick as the head leasee in the pavilion building at Ohuiarangi, Pigeon Mountain. The building has been occupied by the Pigeon Mountain Cricket Club for some time, and their lease with Auckland Council expired in May 2019. So we were approached by Pēsari Howick to see if there was a facility they could potentially use. Their kaupapa is all about restoring the environment in the Howick local board area. And so we felt there was some really significant alignment with the objectives of the authority there. So we are proposing to have them in place as the head leasee to utilise the building for storing resources and distributing them, as well as resources and other educational opportunities, and still allow the Pigeon Mountain Cricket Club to use that space as well as a club room for the times where they wish to play cricket through that season, and also for storage as well. Both of the entities, as part of their lease, will provide maunga outcomes plans in terms of how their particular operations will also contribute back to the Tūpuna Maunga. So happy to take any questions on that.
Kia ora, Lee. Any questions or comments, members? Kia ora, Tony.
Kia ora, Chair. Lee, I'm assuming they're going to help out with the planting on Ohuiarangi that we just spoke of before, 1,000 plants going there.
Yes, we'll make sure that gets written into the outcomes.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
If no further discussion, I'll move the paper. How could I ask you to second, please? Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, abstentions? Carry. Thank you. That takes us to the Sorrento lease paper, and I think, Lee, again, you'll be leading this one.
Kia ora, Paul. So the Sorrento Group Limited have operated a conference and wedding venue on Maunga Kia One Tree Hill since 1999, and their lease is due to expire in February 2024. In the paper today, what we are requesting is an extension of the current lease term of 2 years for a number of reasons which are outlined in the paper, but I'll just go into those very briefly. So the nature of their operation means that often their bookings are about 2 years out from the date of the event taking place. And so in order to take deposits and things, they need a certain amount of surety about how much term they've got left in their lease. Sorrento have been quite heavily impacted by COVID, as have a number of other hospitality venues. And, you know, long term, the authority will be considering what its options are for that site. So we are proposing that the final lease term expiry date is in February 2026. Yeah, I might just leave it there if that's okay. And again, happy to take any questions.
Totally. As we know, we've discussed this concept previously, so it's had a good discussion. Let's see if members have any further discussion. Good, Alf.
Now, Paul, it's only in regards to the recommendation, and I say this humbly, but with the Sorrento and with the 2 years and the final lease, just wanted to offer you, instead of you being just the chair and including the deputy chair in regards to the extension and signing it, that way at least it indicates to the community that it is both our tūpunga o ngā mana whenua o Tāmaki Makaurau, as well as the kaunihira. So that's my only suggestion in regard to that, so that they can see when the recommendations go out, or the minutes, that this has been done and authorised by our co-governance model, but also the partnership we have in regards to the statute. Kia ora.
Good, Alf. We'll pick that up in the formal resolution. And kia ora, Dennis, the tautoko. Any other discussion, members? If not, I'll move the resolutions with that amendment to add the deputy chair in terms of the signing. Can I ask Chris to second that motion?
Yep.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Against, any abstentions? No, that's carried. Thank you. That takes us to the Q3 report, and I think Moonan, you'll be leading this discussion.
We'll take the report as read, and we're happy to take any part on the financial numbers.
Kia ora, Moonan. Can I check with members' questions, discussion?
Yeah.
Kia ora, Kathy.
Murin, just any impact on revenue from COVID?
Yes, so as we reported in the last week, the Sorrento was impacted severely with the lockdown, so we've provided some rent relief to them. So that's impacted in the numbers, and we are running behind in revenue. As you can see in the numbers, the year-to-date numbers are roughly about 130,000 behind in revenue.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, members? Thank you, Moonan. With that, I'll move this paper, and I'll ask Kathy to second, please. Thank you. Thank you. All those in favour say aye or signify with hands.
Aye.
Thank you. Any objections or abstentions? None. Thank you. It takes us to the 22-23 draft operational plan. And kia ora, Dominic.
Kia ora tātou. I'll just quickly speak to the key points to the report. You'll recall that under Ngā Mana Whenua o Tāmaki Makaurau Collective Redress Act 2014, this requires both the authority and the Auckland Council to jointly agree upon the annual plan in each year. And that, of course, has happened from 2015 through to 2021. And you'll also see in the report that it goes through the consultation. There was consultation and feedback programs. 2 of them run independently. That was the Tūpuna Maunga Authority's own program and the Auckland Council's program. And as a consequence of that, there was a good feedback came through. The review by management was that there were no consequential amendments that were recommended to you as a board. And the next stages are, if you were to support this, the resolution and adopt the operational plan and its summary, the next step will be that the governing body of the Auckland Council will also be invited to approve the same operational plan and summary. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora, Dominic. We'll open it up for any discussion. And just to note, again, as Dominic said, a very comprehensive process been undertaken in terms of the public consultation and has had that acknowledgement by the Auckland Council whānau as well. I'm happy to move this paper, and can I ask Josephine to second, please? Thank you. All those in favour say aye, or otherwise signify.
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? No, thank you. That's carried. Takes us to the financial year 21 financial year report. Thank you, Moonan.
Kia ora, Chair. Tēnā tātou katoa. So there's the financial report for financial year ending 30th of June 2021. Every year, Council is required to prepare the annual financial report with the signed letter from the Chief Executive of the Council confirming the annual financial report is accurate and the accounts have been operated in an appropriate manner. I'll take the rest of the report as read and happy to take any part I.
Thank you. As you've noted, this has been an annual feature of our operations. Again, it involves close work with the Council and their team. And just to note, as has been the case every year, there has been a positive acknowledgement in terms of the financial management of the team and the reporting that goes with that. So we'll check in with any questions or comments. I'm happy to move this paper. Could I ask Dennis if you can second, please?
Right.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye, or otherwise signify, please. Thank you. Yes. Any objections
Aye.
or abstentions? No, that's carried. Takes us to the registers. We have health and safety and events. We'll take those as read. Nick, is there anything you wanted to highlight before we open it up for discussion?
No, nothing from me, Chair.
Kia ora, Nick. Any questions or comments on the 2 registers, members? Kia ora, Kathy.
Oh, just to say, Mr. Chairman, how pleased I was at the huge positive publicity and messaging that came out of the visit from the Minister to award the Maunga Authority the $3 million over 3 years for the Jobs for Nature. It's really great to see. We've done fantastic work in my term of office on the Maunga Authority, and it's always overshadowed by negative headlines in the media. And it was so gratifying just to know that into the future we're going to have fantastic havens for people and wildlife and looking after the. I'm doing it again. So sorry. We'll take that as a comment. It was great. Thank you.
Kia ora, Kathy, and it's important to acknowledge the event, and it was a wonderful recognition of the combination of folk who have achieved the many things on the Tūpuna Maunga. Obviously, our wonderful management team, local board, local communities, Te Papatawhai, and also acknowledge the other programs in terms of the Job for Nature's mahi that's going on around Tamaki Makaurau and the Mutu. So it really was a celebration of many hands coming together to protect these various taonga, for us, especially the Tūpuna Maunga.
And if I can just say, Kiri Allen was astonishingly good. It was a brilliant speech. It really was. I was in awe of her. I'm so glad she came.
Kia ora, Katie. Kia ora, Alf.
Yeah, I just want to add some whakaaro, if that's okay, just based on what Kathy's just sort of mentioned. And I just wanted to acknowledge yourself, Chair, plus also the Waiuhua Confederation and Kainga Ora, but more importantly, Chair, the signatories in regards to whakaoranga o te Puhunui Charter signing that was done last week. And the reason I mention that is because it's around environmental. But the fact that you, as the chair of Eke Panuku, along with your staff and your CEO there, along with Kainga Ora, with ex-councillor Penny Hulse, His Worship the Mayor, who was the signatory of the Confederation. So, Chair, I just wanted to acknowledge your role, but the role of all those who were there at the signing at the Botanical Gardens, and especially with Puhunui, and especially around the environmental. So again, Chair, thank you so much, and to all those in our mana whenua. Kia ora.
Alf, again, it's important to recognise that was a major event as well, for the reasons that you've given. And again, many folk coming together to look to the protection and the vision that goes with that for that taonga, that tupuna in terms of Puhunui. So it really was a great event. Kia ora, Chris.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. Just under health and safety, in the report I noticed the night shooting for rabbits, and just wondering whether that was a high risk area and what sort of things are in place.
Kia ora, Chris. Kia ora, Nick. Talk to us about the shooting that's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, thanks for your question, Chris. And you're right. Obviously, anything involving guns is a high risk activity, and it's one that we take very seriously. So what's involved is there is a person that has a very trained rabbit controller who's utilizes guns. He has a number of spotters out on the Maunga at any one time when he's operating. He ensures that the police have been called prior to doing any activity. They do a good sweep of the Maunga, utilising both vehicles and walking around the perimeter. They make sure that there's spotters on each of the gates to stop people from entering into the Maunga at any time that the shooting occurs. They utilise infrared shooting, so they have one person who's a spotter who has an infrared mask on to sight. So they identify their targets using infrared, and then they have an infrared sight on the gun as well. So yeah, that's the main part of it. We audit it annually, so that goes out, and it also occurs at night, quite late at night as well. And a member of our team goes out and audits the night shooting annually, just to make sure that it is a safe operation. To date, it has been very safe. We have confidence in our contractor that is doing the job, and we're constantly looking for ways to improve it, just in case. Because you're absolutely right, we need to be very vigilant with regards to this particular activity.
Oh, thanks, Nick.
Any other discussion on the registers, folks? If not, I'll move that item. I think we're going around the board again. Alf, could I ask you to second, please? Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Against, abstentions, that's carried. Thank you. It concludes the agenda items. It brings us to a presentation we have from Te Hotonga Hapori. Just checking with you, Dominic, are we set up for that or soon to be set up for that?
Just admitting the members now from Te Hotonga Hapori.
Looks like, kia ora, is that you, Julia?
Kia ora, Dominic.
And Dee is with us?
Albert with
Oh,
us.
Albert?
Alofa lava.
Kia ora,
Alofa,
kia ora.
Paul.
Tēnā kōrua. Are we all here with the rōpū?
I think we're waiting for
Okay.
we're waiting for Scott and Dee, who should be on any second now.
I can see a box for Dee. I'm not sure if the audio is working.
Here's Scott.
And kia ora Dee, kia ora Scott.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Well, tēnā rā koutou, nau mai hara mai, ki te hui nei. So a warm welcome. I think you're aware, having liaised with Dominic and the team in terms of what we're about to do. So a warm welcome to you for the presentation. A reminder that we have a period for this. So 5 to 10 minutes for your presentation, and then we'll take any questions. So kei a koe, Julia, or kei a koutou, whoever's going to lead us off.
Yeah, Paul. Yeah, I'll just try and share my screen here for a second. It says I can't share my screen. Is it possible to have my permissions changed so I can share the screen? Is that possible? If not, I can just talk.
I've just given you permission, so hopefully that.
Great, thank you. Great. Can you see that slide?
We can see
Awesome.
that.
Thank you. O tēnā koutou katoa. I te taha o toko papa, ko oraki te maunga, ko waitaki te awa, ko takitimu te waka, ko kaitahu te iwi, ko awarua te hapu. Ko Scott Duncan taku ingoa. Tipu aki au I tamaki makoto, engari ko taku turanga waiwai, ko te waipo namu. Nau raira tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Scott Duncan. I'm a professor of population health at AUT and the director of Te Hotonga Hapori, or Connecting Communities. I'm joined by my amazing colleagues, Albert Rafferty, Associate Professor of Pacific Spatial and Architectural Environments, Dee Holdsworth-Perks, our Program Coordinator, and Julia McPhee, our Program Manager. I would also like to acknowledge Tanya Kai, Professor of Language Revitalisation, who unfortunately couldn't join us this time. Te Hotonga Hapori, so it's a 5-year research program funded by an Endeavour grant from the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. Our key partners in this research are Kāinga Ora, the Building and Research Association of New Zealand, or BRANZ, and Isthmus Group, which is an urban design and architecture firm. And the overall purpose of Te Hotonga Hapori is to provide an understanding of how the major urban redevelopment taking place across the country can be enhanced to promote community well-being. To do this, we will conduct 5 independent but interrelated projects over the next 4 years. So my job today, I guess, is to quickly give you an overview of each of these projects and provide a place that you could gather more information should you want to. So project 1 will be set in 4 Tamaki Makaurau suburbs that will be experiencing major urban regeneration over the next 5 to 10 years. Aorere, Auranga, Waikowhai, and Wesley. It is primarily qualitative in nature and will form partnerships with community residents to allow them to share their multi-generational histories and lived experiences in their neighbourhoods. Listening to the community stories is the essential first step in our wider program of research. Project 2 will visit the same 4 communities across a period of 3 years. Over multiple 7-day periods, we will utilise motion sensors and a custom-designed smartphone app to determine the impact of neighbourhood design and urban development on people's daily activities and real-time well-being. For example, we'll be able to know if accessing local green space results in immediate increases in well-being, and if these effects persist during the day. So in this way, the project will allow us to accurately pinpoint the elements of the urban environment that promote well-being for the people that live there. Project 3, conducted in partnership with BRANZ, will utilise our custom smartphone app to monitor how the design and qualities of people's homes impact their day-to-day well-being. We'll place particular emphasis on the experiences of residents of new Kāinga Ora homes. Project 4 places the focus on Kāinga Ora tenants through a nationwide online survey of individual and collective wellbeing. And this survey will be conducted hopefully in June this year. By implementing the survey annually, we hope to understand how community wellbeing is changing over time, especially in communities that experience major urban redevelopment. And the conceptualisation of wellbeing in this project is drawn from two main sources, the Treasury's Living Standards Framework and also the Independent Māori Statutory Board's model of Māori wellbeing. Project 5 will utilise the integrated data infrastructure, which is Statistics New Zealand's portal to government administrative data. These anonymised data will allow us to follow population trends and key indicators of wellbeing while isolating wellbeing trends in regions of urban redevelopment. Now, on top of these 5 projects, we're very fortunate to have 5 talented PhD students on the team, all of whom bring a unique and valuable element to the program. The projects are quite diverse. They range from a focus on youth wellbeing to analysis of big data sources, understanding people's lived experiences and sense of place, and exploring concepts of regenerative design and development. So all put together, we hope that Te Hotonga Hapere will provide a valuable body of research that will allow us to improve how we redesign and redevelop neighbourhoods, leading to better wellbeing outcomes for the people of Aotearoa, New Zealand. If you'd like any further information, I know this has been a very fast whistle-stop tour, but we have a lot more information on our website there, or if you'd like any more information, you can contact us directly on that email address, or please feel free to ask any questions you have right now. Ngā mihi nui.
Kia ora, Scott. Thank you very much. Just checking with the wider team, any other kōrero that the team wants to have? Or are you happy to go into discussion with the Tūpuna Maunga Authority members? Oh, just checking you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear, yes.
If there's no further kōrero from your team, Scott, or the team, can we open that up to members, please, and really appreciate the information. Kia ora, Kathy.
Hi, thanks, Scott. This sounds absolutely fascinating. Can you just tell me more about the numbers of participants? And you mentioned Waikofi, which is in my ward. Can you just tell me about why you've chosen those places?
Yeah, well, so one of the considerations when we were looking at which areas that might be able to partner with us in this is the timeline of their developments. So Waikofi, as you'll be well aware, is already undergoing some developments, but it also has a lot more planned in future, similar to Wesley, Aorere and Oranga. They will have 10 to 15 year plans of developments happening in those regions. And so we work with Kāinga Ora to determine which areas would be well suited for us to come in and get somewhat of a baseline. So what status quo is at the moment prior to redevelopment. And then obviously we'd like to follow these participants all the way through the development process. We're hoping this will go beyond the 5 years. We're hoping that we'll be able to extend this. Obviously these are much longer than 5 years, these developments. But that was the reason for choosing those regions. And we're hoping to get probably about 1,500 people around those regions.
And can I just ask you if you will be searching for the views of younger people who are part of the families involved? So will it be everyone in the household unit, or will it be a representative of the household?
For the project, we'll be going in and asking them to utilise the app, for example. It'll be one representative of a household. However, our PhD student Lana will be going into the schools around the region and hopefully asking the kids to be involved in the process through that arm of the project. Yeah. Excellent.
Thank you.
Kathy, other discussion members? Kia ora, Alf.
Tēnā koutou katoa, te alofa lawa whionga, Albert, malosu I fua. Hey, look, my pātai is going to be on the rapid rail and how at the moment the government has put in the designated route which falls into place with what's happening from a housing perspective at Kāinga Ora, also from an Auckland transport perspective. Now I know, Scott, you've said that you'll be working with Kāinga Ora, but will you be working in the areas? I know we're a few years away, but I know with the 5-year study, will you be working in the areas where there's going to be the stations for these? I mean, I mentioned Mangere, for example, because that's where we're going to have a station in Mangere at the town centre, which is already experiencing good development. I think you mentioned Oranga as well. And I think Oranga, again, with Kāinga Ora around the housing, but also with that designation for the rapid rail. So look, that's my part for you and your team. Yep,
that's a really good point, Alf. And we will be operating in some of those regions. So that will be another consideration as the years go by. Hopefully we get to continue to go beyond the 5 years. We also have, as I said in that, I think it was the 4th project, we have a nationwide online survey to all Kāinga Ora tenants. So that will certainly reach into various regions that'll be affected by that plan. But yes, very good point. We will have to keep, because that will be a major contributor to people's well-being, people's movement around the neighbourhood, all sorts of things.
Thank you, Chair.
Kia ora, Tony.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you very much, Scott, for that really rapid introduction to the project, which sounds really important and exciting, because I'm a big fan of building not just homes, but building communities and building well-being. So this will be really interesting data to review later on once you've got it up and running. But I wasn't, because it was so quick, so that's been in my face, I wasn't quite clear on how you get the quantitative data around well-being. Like, you might be able to track, I understand, people's movements to open space, but how do you connect that open space experience with a personal sense of well-being?
Yeah, great question. So what we have is we have a custom smartphone app in that particular project, which allows us to survey participants during the day. So what we can do is we can line up using time sort of lining. We can line up people who have done some physical activity, people who have gone to a green space, people who have stayed home, and we can look at their responses to our very brief well-being questions. So the sort of well-being we're talking about in that particular study is what we call experienced well-being. So this is the well-being that fluctuates during the day, people's happiness levels or anxiety levels. It's not the long-term life satisfaction type well-being, which we'll be addressing in the survey. This is more the types of well-being that are influenced by people's environments. And so the question may be as simple as, how happy are you feeling right now on a scale of 1 to 10? And they answer that, and then that's the end of that survey for that particular point. We may survey them 3 or 4 times in the day. We've got a tiny bit of piloting work just to make sure we know how much we can do it without annoying people, but it's probably going to be 3 or 4 times a day. And then we can again match up their behaviors and what they've done in the neighborhood to see what areas of the neighborhood are actually resulting in these spikes of positive well-being. And hopefully it's around green spaces and things that are of value to people.
Yeah, so I guess that sounds great. Obviously there's a lot of testing to do around push notifications and making sure people stay on the program so you can get that data. But how do you do that? How do you ensure you've got people throughout the whole process? And are they just self-selected, or how do you get the cross-section or diversity of the population?
So we've got our target regions, which are the areas that Kāinga Ora has provided to us of development. And we also have areas outside of that in those regions. So we can have a sort of comparison. And we're going to be randomly selecting households from those neighbourhoods to meet roughly sort of 1,500 people, and then giving them the opportunity to participate. And so obviously not everyone will, and if they don't, we'll move on to the next randomly selected person. So there is a randomization component to it, but obviously we'd love to hold on to people and have them part of this program over multiple years. So we'll be reciprocating with some koha in terms of some I think it's $30 voucher per time they take part in the program, and for the survey there's draws and things as well. So time will tell. I mean, we're really hopeful that people will see this as something that's worthwhile. It's not just about the urban development. We can actually provide some really good feedback on the data that provided for us, such as maps and visualizations of their well-being fluctuations during the day, their physical activity, their sleep patterns. We can actually pick up too if they're interested, because we have motion sensors. So there's quite a bit of individual data we can actually feed back to them to hopefully provide some value for participating with us in this program.
Okay, good luck everyone. Look forward to reading more about it. Thank you.
Kia ora, Josephine.
Kia ora, Chair, thank you. Good to see you, Leali'i whānau, Maloli Soifua. Thank you for the initial contact. Thank you, Scott, for your presentation. I just wanted to know from the Tūpuna Maunga Authority's perspective, will there be some data sharing back to the authority and some work to kind of, because I see this as a way for the authority to have some reach into communities as well, and an avenue to promote the values and what the authority is trying to achieve. Is that possible? Do you see the same thing? The feedback that you're going to get because the areas that you've got are close to or have a maunga in them? Yeah, that kind of line of questioning, please.
Yeah, we would absolutely love the opportunity to come back and present to you anything we find, and in fact, not just present to you, but work with you to work out what we should be analysing and how we should be looking at and working with the data and what we should be feeding back. So we'd absolutely love the opportunity to do that. Realise your time is very precious, so but if you can ever fit us in at a later date, especially when we have some preliminary data before we've even done any full reporting, it'd be really good just to show that to you and say, hey, here's what we've found so far. Is there anything you'd like to suggest we look at in particular, or any ways you'd like us to analyse the data to provide the best value for the people you represent? So absolutely keen on that, 100%.
Kia ora, Scott. Is there any further discussion, members? Kia ora hau.
Kia ora, Scott. Amihi nui ki a koutou kia toha mai o whakaaro ki a tātou. It's really exciting to to hear about the works and stuff. So awesome stuff. I just have a question really around the name. I was looking at the English part around and just connecting communities, and I was looking at the name. Is the name Māori name relate to that? Because
it was. Apologies. Yeah, the name was actually gifted to us by Dr. Sir Timothy Kāretu. We're very, very fortunate to have his involvement. And Te Hotonga Hāpori, I guess the Hotonga part, I think, is the part that sometimes some people have suggested Te Hononga Hāpori, but I believe it still refers to some bringing together collectively in some way. Not being an expert in Te Reo myself, I wouldn't be able to comment on his thought process, but there was a sense of honour from us that we've actually been gifted the name from such a esteemed professor.
Yeah, I thank you for that. It just sort of threw me a little bit, and I was sort of understanding the name. But that's what I want to ask, and I probably won't be the first Māori to ask you that.
From a Samoan, sorry, from a Samoan perspective, the Te Hotonga, the word Hotonga is Samoa, is translated as Sotanga, or Hapori is Sa, or family of, or clan of Pori. I have no idea who Pori is, but so those are kind of the connotations that we have in the name Sotanga or Ainga or Poli. Yeah, Turo Lava, Josephine Matofa, Elf, Kaftai Lava.
Ngā mihi e te tuakana. Ka pai. Thank you for that.
Aroha mai. I'm just checking around the board. Kia ora, Dennis.
Yeah, kia ora. I mean, I can never say enough about people who are prepared to put their hand up in their communities and do something, especially in the time that we're living in, I think we look at what's around us and we try and use what's there to heal. There's a lot of this thing called stress happening in our environment. So, that's where I'm sort of looking at. So, to be blunt about it, the cost of living is what's driving all the stress, and plus all these different things that are popping up, strands of this and strands of that. But we got to put everything in perspective. We got to try and bring about a real perspective about things. So, I encourage you fellows, whatever group that's out there. We know we come from a lot of families who have been heavily involved in community work, and some of it's paid off, some of it's gone by the wayside, either because the whole game has changed. There's different stresses upon us now, you know. So how do we, I don't know, how do we map it forward now where we can make sure people feel safe, one, but feel not disconnected, and also what I was talking about, those stresses, you know, how do we alleviate those types of things? Simple things, as you say, simple questions, they need answering, but the targeted groups that you're looking for, you may have to dig around a bit more. But you know, I'm hopeful for long legs on these types of initiatives. So, kia kaha koutou, and thank you for bringing your kaupapa today. And I'm with everybody else, and Josephine, and about what way can we share back to our community in this respect to make sure that we've done our part to make this a successful journey for everybody. So kia te pai.
Kia ora, Dennis.
Kia ora, Alf.
Just whakaaro, if that's all right, Chair.
Ai, ka pai.
Okay, so like just Scott, to you and your team, I don't know if you've got access to the chat, but there's a compliment that's been passed on in Awhi from Hau, from Matua Hau. So that's in the chat, just to let you know. But I just wanted to compliment you on your website. And the reason I say that is because I must probably have a look at your research and findings, which will end up being developed and posted onto your website, because I think moving forward, as Matua Dennis is just saying, it's going to have a big impact what you're doing with you and your team. So look, I just wanted to let you know that. So thank you, and like I said, I just tautoko what Matua Hau and Matua Dennis have said. Kia ora nā, whawhai lava, Albert.
Aloha.
Scott, just before we start to wrap things up, the discussion has been very, very helpful and constructive, and you can hear from our members the real interest in this type of work program for all the reasons that have been articulated. In terms of community well-being and all the things that go with it, because that is such a large kaupapa, as we know, and remembering who we are, does the program bring into it, in terms of the discussions that you'll have and exchanges, the role or place of our beloved, and when I say our, that's all of us, of course, our beloved Tūpuna Maunga, because as you'll be aware, especially during, as one example, during those lockdowns, especially the long ones, and one of the few abilities of communities to go outside and interact with the papa, those Tūpuna Maunga were incredibly important in terms of the daily lives of people being able to get out and to really just contemplate and be at one, as it were. So does that have a place in terms of the program as to what can be included?
Yes, I actually think it will. And I think the reason I say that is, well, one, we have a part of the program which will be very qualitative nature and will engage people who live nearby Maunga, especially Mount Roskill and Mangere. And so having their stories about the importance of Maunga for them will be hopefully gathered through that process. But even beyond that, we'll also, in the second project, have an awareness of how often people are accessing Maunga, how often they're going up, how often they're visiting it, and what that might, how their well-being might respond in that way. So we'll be able to, at quite a high resolution, be able to see the movements of people around the neighbourhood if they consent to that, because it's not a compulsory part of it. But if they do consent to that process, we'll actually be able to see if people are visiting Maunga. So that could be something that we pull out specifically for this authority, in terms of providing you with some data that are meaningful to you about how often people are using it and what it actually does to, or how it affects people's well-being.
That's wonderful, and it really does pick up the comments that have been made, including by Josephine, in terms of that sort of collaboration, as you have been doing, or the team's been doing, talking to Dominic and Nick. It would be a really useful exercise for our respective teams to compare notes on that. We gauge on the metrics as well, just in terms of interactions with the Tūpuna Maunga and the role of the Maunga. So I think there is something there in terms of some common ground. So that could be another exciting part of where this might go.
Absolutely.
So can I say on behalf of the Tūpuna Maunga Authority, Scott, Albert, Dee, Julia, thank you very much for coming along. Really appreciate the crispness of the presentation. And I think as you accurately gauged in terms of the discussion between us is the really important part of it, which is not to understate, of course, the importance of the kaupapa that you've shared with us, but I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate your time.
Kai lava, soifua.
Yeah.
Lava.
Soifua.
Can I just to acknowledge that, can I please move a resolution to thank Te Hotonga Hapori Connected Communities for the verbal presentation?
I'll move.
And, okay. And Josephine, could I ask you to support that, please? Yes, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye or signify.
Aye.
And so passed.
Well done. Well done.
Koena te mutunga, well done, whānau. So, Dennis, he te rangatira kapia tō tātou wiko.
Tēnā rā tātou katoa. Koutou rā, tau mai ki tēnei waha, ke te mihi. Me haere koe i rui te tarangi Māori. Tō rere ai, tira ana, me muti tēnei wahanga me te karakia, no rere kia tau kia tātou katoa, te atawhai o tō tātou ariki au i Ukaraiti, te aroha o te atua, te huhinga te hitanga ki te wairua tapu, a ki tonu atu. Āmene.
Āmene.